Welcome to my channel. These slides that are rolling by are an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. Once you have watched the video, I would appreciate it if you would click the like button and leave a small comment. It's really a big help to the channel. The YouTube logarithm, when it sees that, promotes the channel more and will be more viewers. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you for watching. Well, I thought I would try my hand at making a sweet pickle relish. I don't know if there's anything comparable in other parts of the world or not, but here in North America, it's commercially available in almost any grocery store. It's what's traditionally used on a hot dog or a hamburger for relish. First, I'll show you some of the ingredients here, I guess all of the ingredients. I'm using European gherkins, cucumbers. Any small pickling cucumber would work just as well, but what I had growing was European gherkins, and I need 4 pounds of them. All I did was cut the stem end off of them. I also like this relish in a cheese and pickle sandwich, just with some mayonnaise and cheese, usually that artificial plastic wrap slices of cheese, but it's quite good. There is a link below the video on YouTube to the recipe that I'm using, so you don't really need to take notes or anything. 3 medium-sized onions. These are just the yellow-skinned onion from the grocery store. You need enough to make about 2 cups of finely diced onion. 3 tablespoons of pickling or kosher salt. Don't use table salt because most of that is iodized and that will turn your relish brown. Also, it says in the instructions, if you're using Morton's brand of kosher salt, to cut that back to 2 tablespoons. So evidently Morton's brand is more salt than other salts. 1.5 teaspoons of mustard seeds. I'm using the yellow mustard seeds. 1.5 teaspoons of celery seeds. Anywhere from 1.5 cups to 3 cups of granulated sugar, according to how sweet you want it to be. I decided to use 2 cups in mine. And 2 cups of cider vinegar. If you're somebody that makes your own cider vinegar, you shouldn't use it in a pickling recipe. Store-bought cider vinegar is a standardized product with 5% acetic acid, and that's what you're after here, is the preserving quality of the vinegar because of the 5% of acid that's in it. So don't use your own. It may have more, it may have less, you never know. And that is all of the ingredients, other than some ice water, 2 to 3 quarts of ice water. So I just took a large saucepan and put a couple of trays of ice cubes in it and filled it with water so it has some good cold water. Now to prepare the vegetables. Both the cucumbers and the onions get finely chopped, or as fine as you want to chop them, I guess, for your relish. I didn't go right down to a fine mush or anything, because in the cooking process they also shrink down some. But I used a food processor, as you can see. It could also be chopped by hand, of course, but if you have a food processor, it makes the task a lot easier and quicker. Combine the chopped cucumber and onions in a large bowl and mix them together well, and then add the either pickling salt or kosher salt, whichever you're going to use, and mix that in well. Add enough of the ice water to cover the vegetables, and then stir that in well to make sure that you've got the ice water and the salt evenly distributed. Cover and set aside at room temperature for 2 hours. At this point, your kitchen should be smelling wonderfully. I love pickling season. I love the smell of making pickles. It's the onions and the vegetables and the spices, I guess, but I really like it. Combine the vinegar, mustard seeds and celery seeds, and the sugar in a large stainless steel stock pot. Don't use aluminum because the acid in the vinegar will react with aluminum. This will be heated a little bit later on and used when we're cooking the vegetable part of the relish. Drain the cucumbers and onions in a colander or a sieve. They recommend lining it with cheesecloth, I presume, so you wouldn't lose things out through the holes of a colander. The one that I use is a combination sieve and colander, and the straining sieve part of it is fine enough that I won't lose any of the vegetables, so I didn't bother with the cheesecloth. Rinse this thoroughly with cold tap water to eliminate a lot of the salt. They were pickled in a short time ago. And also, if you're using the cheesecloth, you can pick that up and squeeze it and wring out as much of the liquid as possible. With mine, I just used a large slotted spoon and pressed down on it and got rid of a lot of the extra liquid. Bring the sugar, vinegar, and spice mix to a boil and simmer for 5 minutes, stirring constantly until the sugar has all dissolved. Add the vegetables to the syrup mixture. Turn the heat back on and bring it to a boil. Once it has reached a boil, reduce the heat and simmer for 10 minutes, stirring frequently. Add the mixture to sterilized jars. I'm using pint jars, 500 milliliter jars, and it did 4 of them like the recipe said it would. And I had a little bit left over, which I will refrigerate and have that to try while this is aging before you start using it. Add the seals and rings to the jars. I wipe around the top of the jar each time in case there's any relish or whatever stuck there, so that you get a good seal. And this just shows a picture of the seals. I didn't add the rings yet, but they were put on before it went in the hot water bath. Add the jars to your canner for a hot water bath once it has come to a full rolling boil. Once the canner has returned to a full rolling boil, you time it for 15 minutes for pint jars like I'm using. I think it was 10 minutes if you're using half-pint jars. When I put mine in, there was a strange sort of a popping noise with one of them, and when I went to remove them, I only have 3 instead of 4. One of the jars broke. It must have had a hairline crack in it or something that I didn't notice when I was sterilizing them. They're jars that I've used many times in the past, and this happens occasionally, but I lost one of my jars anyway. So remove them from the hot water bath and listen for them to seal. All 3 of mine clicked and sealed. If by chance you have one that doesn't, and I've had that happen before too, just refrigerate that one and use it first. Well, I hope you'll give it a try. I've really found it quite an easy recipe to do. I find the 2 cups of sugar that I used was the right amount of sweetness for me. I think 3 would be far too sweet. Maybe the 1.5 would be okay as well, but a few tablespoons of the relish that didn't go in the jars, I popped it in a bowl in the refrigerator and tried it, and I think for me it's just the right amount of sweetness. It balances the vinegar with the sugar, and it's quite good. Can't wait for a few weeks from now when I can actually open a bottle and see what the finished product is like. I hope you'll give this a try. Thank you very much for watching.